all about. And I mentioned public funding, but at the end of the day, the bulk of our funding is philanthropic. And so I would encourage your listeners to look at an organization like Father Joe's Villages, who is effective in what it's doing, that helps those not only who are on the streets, but the community at large.
Cloudcast 180. Powerful people, powerful stories, 180 seconds.
San Diego Union Tribune and Retirement Strategies Group present the Union Tribune Community Spotlight Show with your host, Drew Schlossberg.
I'm Drew Schlossberg of the San Diego Union Tribune, and we are back with Wes Burke. He is the president of Emerald Scientific, and their 6th annual Emerald Conference will be held February 26th to the 29th, golf tournament on the 26th, conference on the 27th and 28th, and they've added an extra day on the 29th as well at Loews Coronado. Hey, Wes, shout out that website one more time where you can get signed up for the conference.
TheEmeraldConference.com.
Exactly, and how much are tickets? To go to the conference, can you go one day, or do you have to go to the several days?
Well, we do. I guess we've got 2 levels of tickets, and we have an exhibit floor, and that will be full of vendors to the space. So you'll see everything there from scientific equipment, extraction equipment, analytical product vendors. And great place for anybody, especially if you're new to the industry, building out an extraction lab or building out an analytical lab. Be a great place for you to go meet the right folks that can help you with that sort of thing. And then, so the exhibit only ticket is $400. If you register online for the entire conference, all inclusive, it's $7.99. If you show up day of, if we still have tickets available, it's $8.99. We sell this thing out every year, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. And right. We actually we made a coupon code for your listeners. So anybody that registers, you can get that registration. Yeah, you can get $100 off the registration by using the code SD100. And we'd love to welcome any of your listeners to the show, and that code will get you save you a little money.
Well, I very much appreciate it, and I know our listeners do as well. We talk about the evolution of the cannabis industry. Obviously, that's not fair because you could talk about it for 3 months, I'm sure. But just in general, I mean, obviously, with so much attention, especially in our state, with the passage of being able to have recreational, marijuana. We've always, I shouldn't say always have, but we've had for quite a while, medical marijuana in this aspect of it. Must make conferences like yours, and you're sort of like one of the unique ones when you talk about the science aspect of it, just so critical with so much attention being focused on this industry.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. When we got involved in the industry in 2014, both in the analytical space, so testing labs, as well as extraction labs. A lot of the players were really kind of new to these disciplines, and we saw a lot of stuff being done in people's garages and old warehouses, and you walk into some of these labs back then and you kind of scratch your head.
Right.
But man, it's changed so rapidly, and now what we see is very much more what you would expect, like with the traditional food safety labs and such, and a big move, as we discussed a little bit, a big move towards quality and GMP, so good manufacturing procedures and that sort of thing. So you go into these facilities now, and everybody's wearing lab coats and booties and masks and hairnets, and you see SOPs that have been developed to really ensure that things are being done right, and that's all kind of come with scale. And that's, I guess, at the heart of this evolution is we're just seeing the industry is kind of finally reaching this point where scale is critical, and quality's kind of gone through the roof. We've seen it with just the analytical instrumentation has have moved to much more sophisticated equipment than in the early days. So yeah, it's a real thing. And you mentioned, kind of being this industry. We say a lot. It's like being strapped to a rocket. Or we call the timeline in cannabis kind of like cannabis years, kind of like dog years, and one year things change equivalent to 3 or 4 years, I think, in other industries. So it's a lot of fun, but it forces one to really stay on your toes. And the conference is an attempt to afford everyone the opportunity to kind of come together, network, collaborate, and stay on top of this rapidly evolving industry.
Right. It's interesting, Wes, when we have our friends on from Medical Marijuana Inc. and Stuart Titus, specifically the president and CEO, and, just a great guy, gives some great content and all this. And we, sort of another head scratcher, we look at some of these other countries that seem to be, moving a lot faster in this space, whether it's medical marijuana or not. In this area, and sometimes we get bogged down on some of these. And you brought up something that I think is just so spot on with it. Hey, listen, this stuff is not for everybody, and we need to be very forthright about what are some of the things that are coming out of this, and that's what the research is all about. But do people from other countries, are they coming in that may be a little more advanced in how they have been working in the cannabis industry, offer what they do on a research standpoint, or pretty much this is just United States centric?
No, actually, you make a really great point, and we have really seen other countries enter this race at breakneck speed. So obviously, Canada on the federal level is the kind of the larger country that's embraced cannabis, and there's some good research that's being done in Canada. And one of the things that we've seen in the last year is a really radical uptick in clinical studies. And when you take a dive into it, what you see is that you're seeing larger institutions, pharmaceutical institutions that are getting involved in these clinical trials, but the vast majority of these trials are happening in other countries. And Canada is a hotbed, as I mentioned. Israel is and has been for a long time a hotbed for cannabis-related clinical work. And, the cool thing about this day and age with the lack of barriers to data, it's not difficult at all to watch the evolution and to watch the outcomes of these studies, regardless of where they originate. But certainly, we spend a fair amount of time advocating on the policy issues that the U.S. is behind, and we can be and should be leaders in this evolution. And but we've got to get politically, we've got to make some changes to facilitate broader access to this plant and the research that needs to go on around it.
Well, and you listen, I know you know this better than anybody, and that's going to come from the pressure that consumers are going to demand to say, hey, let's put some pressure on, whether it's the, FDA, whatever the case may be. I mean, do it the right way, obviously. Nobody wants to rush something to market if it's not ready to be at market. We all know that, and the folks in your space are very, very cautious about that. However, that all said, you look at Canada, as you mentioned, and Israel. I'm assuming, a lot of the Latin American countries, I think, are making some inroads in this as well. And I think we need to be, trying to ramp this up a little bit. But, as you folks have your 6th annual Emerald Conference and then 7th next year and so forth, that can't do anything but help. We're chatting with Wes Burke. He is the president of the Emerald Scientific 6th Annual Emerald Conference. He's also president of the organization itself. Again, shout out one more time the dates and where the location will be for the conference, Wes.
Yeah, so the event is going to kick off on Wednesday, February 26th. The conference will be in full swing Thursday and Friday, the 27th and 8th, and then we have a quality summit and a beautiful brunch planned on Saturday. The event's going to be held at the Loews Coronado Island. The event sells out, so grab your tickets now. Use that SD100 code to get $100 off. And yeah, come enjoy a little science with us on beautiful Coronado Island. We'd love to see everybody there.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Wes, and I think the work you guys are doing is so good, so important, to say the least. And, it'll just continue to grow in importance as the more findings are coming up and more people are getting into this space. So I just want to congratulate you on, the previous 5 conferences, now number 6, moving forward. And, again, encourage our listeners to take advantage of Wes's gracious offer to get, I think, $100 off or something like that you were mentioning with that code. Wes, nothing but good luck, and we'll look forward to having you back on again to chat more about what's going on in your space.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Wes Burke, he's the president of Emerald Scientific. Again, the 6th Annual Emerald Conference will be held in Coronado, February 26th through the 29th. Golf tournament on the 26th. That could be well worth your time to go down. I'm Drew Schlossberg, San Diego edition of the Community Spotlight Show here on Cloudcast Media Radio. Brought to you by the Retirement Strategies Group. Retirement is simple, folks.
Thank you for listening to a podcast from Cloudcast Media, the digital media home for leading local brands. When it comes to amplifying your brand, a Cloudcast-sponsored show offers unbeatable value. Learn more at cloudcast.us.
Cloudcast 180. Powerful people, powerful stories, 180 seconds.
Welcome to Cloudcast 180, the 3-minute lightning round with changemakers here in San Diego. We're here with Ed Heiner, 20-year Navy SEAL, best-selling author, and education entrepreneur. Ed, welcome to the Cloudcast 180.
Thanks for having me.
Your book was called First Fast Fearless, so let's hit this fast and fearlessly. Real quick, you created a program to help change lives of high school students around the country. It's called Sealpreneurship. Tell our audience what it's all about.
Well, it's about leading yourself. Getting a PhD in me, I teach kids how to take care of themselves and lead themselves first, and how to be their own entrepreneur, if you will.
Is it something you think public education is lacking, this concept of self-leadership?
Absolutely. It's a mindset that kids don't get. My son doesn't get in his school. The kids don't get it. It's something that, we're educating them, but to be mentally tough and be able to take charge of themselves and accountable for themselves is very unique.
Okay. I've seen an overview of your curriculum, 23 evolutions, and you have a 23-minute podcast series. So what's up with 23?
Chromosomes, right? It's all in all of us. We're all the same. 99.9% of everybody in this world is the same. And we use those chromosomes, 23 pairs, which was one of the concepts we teach as swim buddies, never be alone. Mm-hmm. Always work with someone else, collaborate, and be out there.
Boy, that's a lesson for life for sure. Ed, you were in charge of basic and advanced training for the U.S. Navy SEALs, and I mentioned you're a 20-year SEAL. Tell our audience the greatest lesson from the SEALs that have changed you forever.
Probably in the back of a helicopter one night in Iraq before I was getting ready to fly into an Al-Qaeda target, it dawned on me that when a pilot said, you have this many souls on board, it dawned on me that the opposite of fear is love. It's not else. I don't fight for what I hate in front of me. I fight for what's beside me, behind me, that I love.
Wow, it's a powerful concept. Wow. You've talked a lot about the blue-collar scholar as a concept. Fascinating. Tell our audience, what is the blue-collar scholar as it relates to your Sealpreneurship program?
It's a mental concept where people take control. Don't outsource their life. Look, we're going to have people that are in white coats, suits and ties, doctors, PhDs. That's fine. Listen to that and learn your information from them. But eventually, you got to be that mechanic in your own life. You got to turn the wrench. This is happening. So basically, take control of your own life. Use what you can use from other people. Discard it, what you can't, and make that your own. Leadership is something that you do. It's you do with people, not to them. And one of the best forms of leadership I learned in the back of that helicopter is called MOM.
Ed,
Focus on mission, others, me.
Mission, others, me. Ed, thank you for being here. This has been the Cloudcast 180. We hit it fast and fearlessly. We're out.
Cloudcast 180. Powerful people, powerful stories, 180 seconds.